Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Breakfast and Convos. I am Liberty White, video marketing specialist and
I'm
headmistress of the White House. I know I switched up on you today
I
because
know.
because I know what we're going to talk about today. I just also had to add that and headmistress of White House Academy for those parents that are watching that are also homeschooling.
Yes, headmistress. Salute the headmistress. And I am Adeola, digital marketing expert who sits at the intersection of digital marketing, media, and how it's transforming business and life.
Awesome. So thank you everyone who is watching. You know how we do. We've got to check that we're firing on all systems because we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn Live. So hey, our faithful LinkedIn viewers, and then also we broadcast or simulcast on Facebook and Twitter, and then also on YouTube. So the producer in me has to ensure that everyone else can see and hear us okay. But I
Headmistress wears a lot of hats. She wears a
lots of
lot of
hats,
hats.
lots of hats. And that's why today we're also T, did you know that it's Mental Health Awareness Month?
I did not know that. Thank you for educating me.
Not a problem, not a problem. So, each month there are a series of whether that be health awareness days locally, nationally, and then of course internationally and mental health awareness month. I figured, you know what, we especially since we talk so much about business and tech and of course with what's going on in the state of our world, that it was important for us to also discuss that on today's show. I'm fingers crossed for some all-star guests towards the end of the week for our next show so that we can really delve in because and that's why I have to apologize to you because just throwing in that headmistress because you asked me and I this one of the things I really appreciate about you is even though in producing this you're always like how are you and checking in and that's something because all of our lives have been disrupted in the
Yeah.
midst of this.
Absolutely, you got to. It's my pleasure. 'Cause like I said, no man's an island. We make it together, or we don't make it. So, that's how it is.
That's it. And even at the onset of, working from home, what are we in? Maybe like week 8 if and it really depends. Some companies started much earlier. But for the most part, people whether it be between week 6 and 8 because I will never forget March 11th when the NBA said, "Listen, the season is canceled."
Yep,
Not like, okay, we're gonna take a hiatus, like when the
done.
passing,
Mhm.
yeah, the passing of Kobe Bryant and the seven, yes, the seven others, his daughter and the seven other passengers, that they took a pause for a week. So we if they had said we were gonna pause, get that, but they said it was over. And just looking at since then, today is now the 12th. So yeah, we are officially at the 8-week mark. And for
Yeah,
some people, working from home is new.
yeah. It's I've had the privilege of being able to work from home for a number of years, but it is quite the mental adjustment
Yeah,
because I'm very much so I'm the king of my castle sort of guy.
right.
And I'll never forget the first time I was working from home. I was sitting on the couch in my drawers, eating some cereal. And
Okay.
I was feeling like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm working and whatnot. But then it hit me. It's like, hold on. I'm in my house,
Right.
in my drawers, eating Captain Crunch. Why the hell am I working? Like, I felt like my space had been invaded. Cause like I'm the
Mm,
type, like when I'm at home, I'm at home. And when
right.
I'm at work, I'm at work. There's a very clear demarcation and compartmentalization, whatever other 50-cent word you want to throw in there. I,
Good.
I I segregate the two. But
Right.
now all of a sudden, I got my boss in my living room chatting up a storm, mind you. Like we
Okay.
don't talk this much when we're in the office, and our
Okay.
cubes are right next to each other, and we might talk to each other 4 or 5 times a day. I come home and and
All
it's
day.
like all day, and they got the nerve to be like, "Well, why didn't you get too much done?" I spent 2 hours a day just chatting you. Like, what do you mean?
Right,
So
right,
yes, it is quite the adjustment. And you really do need to take care of your mental health and be able to, process that in a way that works for you, which comes easily to some people, and to
right.
some others it doesn't come as easily. So
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping with the next few minutes to just talk through that. Some apps that I have found and just some resources to help, not just the fact that we're working from home, but the implications of working from home. So I don't know about you, but I've just recently getting adjusted to this schedule
mhm,
of, okay, there's work, there
mhm,
is homework. My daughter has homework and getting her straight. And then I remember the first day of their digital learning, is what they call it. And she got her set up. I'm like, cool, pulled out the old 2010, got from Best Buy
right,
open box, because those open box are not a game. And so it
right.
was a great savings on it and it still works. Pulled it out, got her set up. I'm like, okay, bet. And I turned to go do, and as soon as I went to open my laptop to get started with my work, mommy, how do you? And I was like, oh, that's right. You need
Mhm.
help in
Yeah.
getting, explaining your work and your assignments.
Yeah, you're 6, so yeah, I kinda have to help you. Oh, damn. Okay. Like, yeah.
Right. So there's my work, there's her work, there is her as work. you know?
Hey, and she's not alone, mind you. I have a friend of mine who just got an iMac,
Okay.
and she this is her first Mac like ever. And
Okay.
it can be quite the transitioning from a Mac to a PC, or PC to a Mac rather. And she's calling me like, what is, I can't find anything. Like, what had it, you know what I mean? It's so
Right.
it was this whole, reintroduction. And she's computer, this woman's almost 50. She's like 48 years old, and like the iMac might as well have been an alien to
Oh, wow.
her. And it's like, so yeah, it's quite the adjustment. And then she got upset with me, like, "Are you making fun of me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not making fun of you at all."
Not at all. Not at all.
But yeah, it's
So
it's it's quite the thing.
with that aspect, and there's so much adjustment that people, I know we use the term the new normal, but people are still getting adjusted to this. And thankfully there are apps that have preceded COVID-19, just like, and I want to pull this up here. There we go. Yes. Just even starting out, and actually, what I wanted to start with is that the CDC has put out some information that will help us. And I think it's very apropos and very timely in just understanding that if you are starting from scratch and you are recognizing, because I even had a friend, the good and the bad with social media is she shared this great post of just realizing, wait a second, there are people who are thriving right now, or there are people that are doing really well. She's also an entrepreneur, but then for her, she's like, why am I not moving at the same pace? Why is it taking me so long to do XYZ? And then coming to realize that, that was a form of depression that she's going through. And just even thinking about some of the statistics that are out there, where it's 1 in 5 people in the US, they have some sort of mental illness, mental health issue. And then even going even further, that of that, that 1 in 5, roughly 19.7 million Americans that have an issue are not going to be seen, are not being
Mhm,
treated. Now, let's go even further. I'll share that stat when I get to one of the apps that were created specifically for this community. But just even looking at, the CDC just saying like pause and taking breaks. And for myself, and for those of you who are watching us live now, like, let us know, what are you doing to protect your mental health in the midst of, even if it was before COVID-19, but especially now, just unplugging. Like, that was something that, as much as this weekend was Mother's Day, I was like, I posted like one or two things on the weekend on Saturday and that tap out. So I apologize to folks that I might have not gotten to, but I also realized after doing a week of, we did training all last week and then getting ready to release the planner that we're working on this, and just there's just so many things and you have to unplug. So just even looking at the CDC, pause, take breaks, make time to make time for just getting sleep.
Like this is a really personal topic for me because a couple years ago now my mother had a mental breakdown. She had to be hospitalized and everything. And you were talking about how, the statistics of mental health in our community, it's actually a lot worse in the Black community specifically because just due to our history in this country, we tend not to trust medical doctors.
Yeah.
And I won't take you on the whole trip about the Tuskegee experiment and blah blah blah. But suffice it to say, especially older people, they don't trust doctors
Yes.
because they've been mistreated. Our community has been mistreated. And I had an old uncle who told me flat out, like, hospitals are where you go to die.
Mm,
So I ain't going to no hospital because I ain't
right.
trying to die. So, which is inaccurate, but you get my point. So talking about this and sharing these resources are really, really important, especially in the Black community, because let's be frank, we don't go to the doctor like we supposed to. We just don't. And we're not the best patients because my mother, love you, ma, not talking bad about you. Happy belated Mother's Day. I talked to you on Mother's Day. But my mother's a very difficult patient. Like I feel sorry for any medical provider who has to take care of her because like she's a history teacher by profession. She was a social worker for many years. Then she taught African American and world history at Central State University in Dayton, Ohio. Well, right outside of Dayton, Ohio. And so she knows the history of the medical establishment and Black folk, and she don't trust the doctor as far as she can throw him.
Wow.
She does not trust them, and will look you square in your eye and say, "Hey, don't let these folk kill me."
Mm.
So,
Well,
yeah, man.
just even to your point, I was like, okay, let's get to that statistic. It is 20% of people in the African American community, they're not aware of their status. They're not looking at just their, and it's, as you said, it's not necessarily something that it's intentional, but it's also something that just looking at the historical fact of just what we've been through and having to go through. And I can't imagine what that looks like in the midst of what's happening right now and looking at how the coronavirus is disproportionately affecting the African American community.
Mhm.
And so this app here, the Safe Place, that came out a couple years ago, and that is a place where you can find resources and help, and it's specifically targeting the African American, the multicultural community. And these kinds of tools are important and critical, especially at this time. And even thinking about one of the things that I wonder about is what m- the mental health space will look like, or what we as people will be once we actually go back outside. That part, like, we all, how prisoners, when they are released
Mhm.
or their term is done, and that re-entry
Yep.
process, we
Reintroduction. Yeah.
all are going to experience a re-entry process, and just what that is look like. So many of my friends who are in that mental health space, I say, like, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? And I'm sure that they are and will be, but just even thinking about that. So the Safe Place, for any of you who are watching, please let us know what apps or what tools are you using. Many people might be aware of Calm. That's another one where they just have meditation, and they're actually, interestingly enough, both the Safe Place and Calm, they're also doing live stream programming, so that the meditation you would get on the app, that in just having that 10 minutes of, like they said, calm, bringing you down. I know, even looking at like how long it takes for people to go to bed at night, because you might finish your day, But once you stop, your brain is still going with
Mhm.
everything that we see. And that's where other apps like Space helps as well. So that's three apps right there for you folks. So Calm, The Safe Place, which is culturally sensitive, and then Space. And there are a whole bunch of other ones as well, but I just wanted to share a couple of those with you, that if you are in the midst of this, trying to figure out, even just being more aware. And T, I'm just interested in if there are any apps that you use or how you deal with, because we are in this space
Mhm.
heavily
Right.
already pre-COVID. So there are some tools that we have, but there's just a layer of intensity with the news and the information. Again, as the CDC said, just those tips of unplugging.
Yeah, so I'm kind of basic. So I use the Breathe app on my Apple Watch.
Okay.
So and that comes, default. That's pre-installed on your Apple Watch. And like I said, I'm in the process of getting less fat, and when you exercise, your body releases what's called endorphins, and the
Right.
endorphins make you feel better. And that's primarily what I do to unplug and try to stay calm. I may not look like it because I'm still, I'm a large man. Because at my heaviest, I was 380 pounds.
Oh wow.
And I wasn't that big when I started exercising. When I started exercising in January, I was probably somewhere around 330.
Okay.
um, and I have no idea how much I weigh right now, by the way. I have no clue because I started exercising for my mental health specifically, not because, I wanted to hit any type of number, but I exercise about 2 hours a day on
Okay.
any given day. Like my calorie goal, my burn calorie goal is 1,800 calories a
Okay.
day is what I burn. And just for context, it's recommended that you consume 2,000 calories a day, and I
Right.
burn 1,800 of those.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I do. I exercise quite a bit. Now, that being said, I'm spoiled insofar as I live with my aunt, and my aunt has a full blown gym in her basement. She
Oh,
has
nice.
Bowflex stair stepper. She has a treadmill. She has bench press with which my cousin broke. He bent the bar. She has a bike. She has a speed bag. Like it's all right there.
Nice.
So I can get a full body whenever I want it. So, but exercise is mainly what I do. Oh, and she has a spoiled pit bull. Technically, he's a pitador, so he's a pit bull and a Labrador.
Okay.
Cute dog, but spoiled, rotten. Like anyway, I'll walk him. I
Okay.
walk him for about a mile and a half
Oh,
when
that's
the
good.
weather permits. But yeah, and will harass you to take him outside, and then you walk him. You do a little 1.5 miles, and then he comes home and collapses. Like literally, will sprawl out in the middle of the kitchen floor, like you just ran him for 10 miles, and it's like spoiled. It's what you
There it
are.
is.
You
There
spoiled.
it is. Well, that's good. So the wellness aspect of things, and that's the beautiful part of a lot of these trainers. So salute and kudos to all of you fitness folks, whether you're yoga, whether it's just hit workouts, those that go live or are offering virtual sessions for people, because that is helping us too. I know there are a few, my friend Mary at 9 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, she's on IG and I'm there sweating it out, because you are right, that is critical for our mental health. So, for those of you, again, you are watching Liberty and Tea in the morning on Breakfast and Convos, and we're about to get into this annual report that you have from, I like to say, the big three. I watched This Is Us, so I was just like, this was my chance to use that, the big three.
Victory quarterly, not
Yes,
annual. So this is just for Q1 of 2020, because when you talk about mental health, few things affect someone's mental health as much as their money. Right? Let's
facts.
be clear about it. You work for a living. You don't live to work, you work for a living, but however that phrase goes. But let's be frank, if
Right.
your money ain't right, that makes things worse. Right.
You see
So,
these stimulus packages that are being sent out, and
mhm.
across, I see Canada's got some, they've sent some out and they will continue throughout the coronavirus, but then also for businesses. So you are on point with that.
Yeah, it'll make you feel all the feels. So as we're recording this, we're almost halfway through May, which is halfway through Q2 of the year. And so now the Q1 earnings have been out. And Liberty, if you can pull up that VentureBeat
I can't.
article. Um, so Alphabet is Google's parent company. So Alphabet is the company that owns Google, and they are the largest advertising based company in the world. Right? There is no company larger than Alphabet. And just for context, 31% of um, all ad revenue, that's period, goes to Alphabet, right? That is, for context, that is 30% more than Facebook. They are 26 times bigger than Twitter and 38 times bigger than Snapchat. And so, I say
Can
all
I
that to
ask
say,
you just one more time to say those? Because that's significant.
yeah, 31% of all US ad revenue goes to Google. Right? And they are 30%, 30%, that's 30% more than Facebook. And for context, Google is actually 4 times bigger than Facebook
Mm,
because they're older. So they had a chance to grow more than Google, but 30% more ad dollars go to Google than goes to Facebook. They are 26 times bigger than Twitter and 38. They are
mm,
38 times bigger than Snapchat. So I always like to put that in context just because something that irks me, and then I'll step off my soapbox and get back to the numbers, is that a lot of people are very social media centric when it comes to digital marketing. It's like social media, social media, social media, which
right,
oftentimes translates to Facebook because Facebook is the big dog in that space.
right,
But again, Google is 4 times bigger than Facebook. So, in terms of bottom line revenue, oftentimes you're going to see a larger contribution from search than you are going to see from social media because
right.
that's just the landscape. But stepping off my soapbox, getting back to the numbers. Okay, so they brought in $41 billion total in Q1 of this year. So January, February, March, $41 billion total. That's up 13% year on year from the 18.8 billion they brought in last Q1 of 2019. And so Google ads specifically, because Google has several different businesses. They have the display network, which are the image ads you see on, the
Right,
Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, or wherever, those ads that follow you across the internet. And they also have YouTube. So YouTube is folded in there as well. But of that $41 billion, $34 billion is search. So search makes up the lion's share of Google's ad revenue. About 82% of it, because again, 34 billion of that 41 billion is just from search.
wow,
And now, in terms of the other businesses they have, so they have Google Search, which is the big dog, most mature. Then they
right,
have the display network, which are the image ads, and they have YouTube. It's sort of the tale of two um quarters, because everything was going good. They were having really strong quarters, and then COVID hit the second week of March, and everything tanked. Like fell off a cliff across the board, because while people were searching more, their searches had less commercial intent. It
yes,
was more informational in nature, as opposed to I'm looking for something to buy. So the ad revenue just tanked because you had, and that makes sense, right? Because you had certain verticals who could no longer advertise. We were just talking about the NBA, right?
yes,
But you also have travel. Ain't nobody buying air tickets right now. Ain't nobody buying flights right now. You
right,
have tourism, you have restaurants. So, like, and these were government mandated shut down. So, of course, all those advertisers pulled their budgets.
right,
So, I mean, it went to hell in a handbasket really quickly. However, and this is interesting. This
What's
is
the
deep within the
however?
number.
I'm waiting for it
However,
because I know you're gonna bring it.
YouTube eked out a gain. YouTube actually grew 1% this
Nice.
year. So, which is big because first of all, and I'll do my best to move succinctly because I know we still got to do Facebook and Twitter, but YouTube, their business is mostly what's called brand advertising. So there's two types of digital advertising. I'm hearing a slight echo. Can you hear that? Maybe
I
it's just
cannot.
me. Okay, it's just me. So disregard that. But YouTube's um most of their revenue is advertising was called brand advertising, meaning they're not necessarily trying to drive an action this instant so much as they're trying to build a relationship over time and
Okay.
stay top of mind. So most of your traditional advertising like TV, radio, and print, that's what's called brand advertising because again, it's not a one for one dollar in dollar out transaction. You can't really track precisely how much exposure you got via a billboard or a radio spot or a TV ad. You're just trying to, stay on top of people's minds. Whereas you have what's called direct response advertising, which is your digital advertising. So, like Google Ads, for
Yeah.
example, and Facebook, that's dollar in, dollar out. You know how much return you're getting for your ad spending. So, it was thought, and YouTube has actually said that most of their revenue is from branding, not necessarily direct response. However, YouTube also has game installs, app installs,
Yeah.
and they also have a lot of gaming that goes on the platform, and
Which
that
we've said has
mhm,
increased out of the
increased.
wazoo. Yes.
So that has really put a floor on YouTube's earnings, even though 80% of it is branding, that 20% that is gaming and apps has saved YouTube's bacon in Q1 because while everything else was going to hell in a handbasket, gaming in specific, as you talked about before, really stepped up and saved them from having a negative quarter. So even though the other business units did record losses, YouTube actually eked out a gain. So, which is no small thing in the light of COVID.
Right.
So, yeah, that was Google's earnings. And what do you think, Liberty? Does that make sense to you in
It
terms
makes
of yeah?
perfect sense, and it's in alignment. So the video marketing side and seeing what has been taking place on YouTube and seeing, for our clients that we work with and pushing them like, are you doing YouTube ads? Because those have increased. I even have folks sending me like, hey, Liberty, have you seen this with regards to using ads, YouTube ads, and then also knowing with all the streaming that's taking place, especially in the gaming space. And I keep coming back to gaming just because we're watching the trajectory of that increasing and growing. So yes, this makes perfect space sense. And what stuck out to me when you shared some of those numbers is okay, folks who are watching, especially if you are a marketer or if you are trying to increase your digital marketing knowledge, is look at those numbers, listen to those numbers, search. But what kinds of search are hitting, and how can you use that to work for your business or your campaign, or just from a strategy standpoint? So that's what I was geeking out on, is the possibilities now based on looking at where their numbers are and how people are using, using the platform. Because as you said, many people focus on the social media side of digital marketing and not
Mhm.
understanding that there are so many other tenants that you can use for omni-channel marketing. So,
Absolutely. And speaking of social media, excuse me, because I mean, Facebook is not insignificant by any stretch of the imagination. They
right.
they are a bona fide big dog, and there's a reason they're top of mind. But again, you got to put everything into context. So Facebook had an okay Q1. Their ad revenue was $17.4 billion, which was up 17% year over year. Their monthly active users is 2.6 billion. That's billion with a B, people that use Facebook every month. So that's up
Okay.
10% year on
Makes
year.
sense. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
which makes sense. A lot of people are flocking to social media,
Right.
and their monthly active people, which is a separate metric. It's related, but it's different. It's the, you know, because anyway, that is up 11% to 2.99 billion. So almost 3 billion people year over year. Now, this does not include WhatsApp or Facebook's other properties that they own,
Okay.
Instagram. This is just Facebook proper.
Ooh,
And it was the same story that you would expect from Google. They were having a really strong Q1, actually, really strong Q1. And then the second week of March, pew, because
wazoo. Yeah.
everybody pulled out.
Yeah.
Everybody pulled out. Restaurants, travel, you know, there are certain industries that just could not, you know, a lot of the sporting events got canceled. And so, you know,
Conferences like
conferences.
this is that time of year from April. So our busy season is like April all the way to November. So that makes perfect just all of those activities that have now shifted online.
Mhm. And yeah, so people are spending a lot more time on Facebook and social media in general, but again, the intent is very different. The commercial intent isn't there. They're looking for information.
That's it.
They're trying to learn and trying to figure out, okay, you know, how am I going to move? They're not booking vacations, they're not going to conferences, they're not booking hotels. And
Right.
so, you know, if you don't have a if advertising is your only, you know, it's your only ball of wax, you're suffering right now. Which brings us back to YouTube. Like if you diversified, you know, your offerings to include gaming and apps and all that good stuff,
Right.
that provides you a little bit of shelter. So moving on to last but not least, lowly Twitter, itty bitty Twitter,
The engine that could.
the little engine that could. They are just, compared to the other two, they're small potatoes. But Twitter plays they've carved out a very specific niche for themselves. They have a loyal rabbit following, and people really do look to Twitter for breaking news.
That's it. Yeah.
That's sort of its linchpin to, you know, to quote Seth Godin, that's where it really shines and where it's been able to hold on. So Twitter actually pulled its Q1 2020 guidance, meaning that
Mm.
they told investors, like, look, we don't really know what's going to happen. So we cannot in good conscience tell you, like, set expectations, because we don't actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But they actually did manage to have a strong January and February. So worldwide revenues, Twitter was 682 million, which
Okay.
was yeah, kind of a flat growth. It was up a little bit from the 679 million they had in Q1 of 2019. But again, comparatively, it's that we're talking millions with Twitters
Mm.
instead of the billions with
Right.
Facebook and Google. But they are still holding their own. And you know, in terms of news and how people interact and things spread, you know, they're definitely holding their own. And they too took a hit, but it wasn't as dire as a lot of folks thought. So because their January and Februarys were actually really strong.
Mm.
And it was the same story with everybody. January and February was actually really, really good. And then COVID hit and it just wiped out a lot of those gains. So you kind of, like I said, you kind of have to view it in two different, you know, lenses.
Pre-COVID,
Yeah, yeah,
post-COVID, or
exactly.
COVID
Pre-COVID, yeah,
and COVID.
exactly. Because and then really specifically the last 2 weeks of March,
Yes.
everything was fine until the last 2 weeks of March, and then a bomb went off, and there you have it. So again, We hope that in this episode, we were able to give you some resources about your mental health. And I hope that if you're an investor in these companies, that we didn't just shoot your mental health, but you probably already knew a lot of this stuff. But we always try to bring you the real and give you data so that you can make informed decisions about both your business and your life. So again, not to harp too much, but I see this a lot in the large corporations I've worked for, and also the small businesses I talk to. Everybody, social media, social media, social media. Look, first things first, build that email list. It should
That's
all
it.
go toward building your email list. And because in terms of contribution, the undisputed digital marketing heavyweight champ is the lowly email marketing in all of its spammy glory. Like there's a reason we spam the hell out of y'all. That's because it makes money. But
That's it.
anyway, after email, Google. And in most cases, search is going to be where you want to spend the bulk of your time. Again, I'm not saying Facebook and social media is unimportant. What I'm saying is that in most all cases, it should not be the center of gravity for your digital marketing. That strategically, that's just not it. The center of gravity should always be growing that email list, and to that end, Google search typically brings you more value than Facebook. And I know that
And those
that's
qualified leads that
mhm,
at the end of the day, like, as the social media, yes, that's driving, that's helping with your awareness, but if you are looking at, to your point, you shared some numbers earlier of just like the ROI, the return on investment. If you are looking to get them to the next phase and you're trying to get them all the way down that funnel to them actually converting, and we need to do an episode dedicated to maybe like just intro to digital marketing. And so
yeah,
where we can just break down some of the terms for those who, because we are broadcasting on a number of different platforms, but taking them down the funnel so that they will actually buy. And it's important, as you said, intent, that it is not business as usual. So this is a perfect example of the way people were searching and interacting with brands pre-COVID to how they are
mhm,
now. And for those of you who are a small business or in business, how do you adjust? And for those of you who are thinking about going into business, like how do you create content around that, knowing that intent has changed?
absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head earlier, because you were talking about again April through November. That's when people travel. That's when people go on vacations.
Yeah.
That's when people go out to eat. Like you go out to eat throughout the entire year, especially if you're me, because I'm a sucker for some calamari. Let me tell you. But you know, those industries stopped in their entirety. There
Yeah.
were no sporting events. People were not traveling, and people were not going to restaurants. And we talked about it in a previous episode. Coca
Right.
Cola took a big hit in Q1 because a lot of Coke's money are through restaurants. Like over 50% of Coca Cola's revenue is via restaurants, not grocery stores or vending machines. It's
Right.
restaurants. So if people aren't going to restaurants, people aren't buying Coke products. And it was something that was unavoidable. People couldn't see it. And so yeah, that was that was it. So again, I know we sort of threw a lot at you this episode, but it
Good,
all makes
good.
sense.
This is why it's breakfast,
Yep.
because we come and we start you off with some croissants and some grits, and
Hmm.
then you pour some coffee or tea, depending on which one, and then we just like sit down and we break bread together. And
Exactly.
that's what
Exactly.
we strive to do each and every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:15 a.m. That was awesome as usual. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
bringing the numbers and the stats. And again, this is a great, even you breaking it down is a great case study for anyone. For those of you who have been joining us, I see the Facebook folks are on fire over here. I'm interested to hear like LinkedIn and their numbers. So even if this is like a follow up, even that would be interesting to see, especially because LinkedIn bought Linda. And for those of
Mhm.
you who are familiar with lynda.com from back in the day, they were one of those original training websites. So helping people with digital learning. So you can go anywhere from learning, taking a course on accounting, on digital marketing, pretty much a lot of the business areas. And to know that people are now searching, whether for upskilling or for improving their qualifications for jobs, to see what LinkedIn's numbers might have looked like. And not only because we broadcast on LinkedIn Live, but to see those numbers and how that's impacted, because we're looking at one of the highest times of people of unemployment or people filing for unemployment, and just seeing how, LinkedIn plays in that space. So that's, again, just off the dome of just thinking the impact of what's happening and how that's not only impacting our social and digital habits, but at the end of the day, our lives.
See, there's a reason I admire you, because like you be on it, and I'm not just saying that because you allow me to co-host your show. Like, but that's really, no, that's really really good, and I am gonna dig into that because you're right. It'll be very interesting to see, like, it's like especially our industry. A lot of business happens and a lot of contacts and leads are made at conferences and seminars.
That's
Like,
it.
marketers love them some conferences and seminars. Shout out to Joe Palizzi, my
Yes,
main man. He's my faves. Not to play favorites between him and Michael Stelzner. I like Joe more. But anyway, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that translates into digital online learning. Because, fun fact, I got my bachelor's degree in internet marketing from Full Sail University, and they would
okay.
have us do lynda.com modules as homework. So lynda.com, that's like a third of my degree. No
There it
lie.
is.
No
That
lie. So yeah, real big.
That's awesome. And I think that what I might have missed in saying, like, and so LinkedIn bought lynda.com. So now if you're
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, you see LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
So the foundation of that are lynda.com trainings that they realize that, hey, we're the platform where people go to make professional connections, but then also those who are looking for a job, hey, why not offer them more content, more resources to help them? So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you. I might even jump in that afterwards, just
Right.
for my own curiosity. But it's about that time, T.
It is. It's about that time. This has been tremendous, phenomenal. Any big word that stands for awesome. I learned a lot, me personally, as I always do every time we talk, and I really look forward to it. So, yeah, that's all we got, folks. Again, my name is T. Adeola, digital marketing expert, and I sit at the intersection of digital media, marketing, and how it transforms business and life.
And I am Liberty White. Again, this episode we've gone through. So if you're watching right now live, go back and watch the rebroadcast. Type in the comments below and say replay, and go back and see just some of the apps and the tools that we shared just on mental health and wellness. And then dive into T's Talk. He just broke down the Q1 earnings for Google, Facebook, and Twitter. And we will catch you all this coming Thursday at
Thursday.
7:15 a.m. Thanks. Have a great one.
Bye.